Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to Lion's Heart, and in this video I'm going to be speaking about the top 10 ways to increase your baseline level of consciousness. Increasing consciousness is a very nuanced and complex topic, but what this is going to be tailored to is specifically increasing consciousness around awakening practices. So this is talking about spiritual awakening. This video is for students of spirituality or the spiritually curious who really want a distilled list of ways to increase their consciousness. And I've been doing this for about 10 years, pretty full on. So this list is pretty distilled from trial and error. So what is awakening? Awakening is coming to the realization of your existential nature. So I can ask you, is that a human over there that's experiencing this, like with a name and a story and all these things? Is that really truly who you are existentially? Not as a person. There's always the story of who you are, and in a sense, in a relative sense, that's true. You are, that name and that person. But I'm talking about your existential nature. The basis of enlightenment work is coming to the realization of who you are existentially, which has a lot of different names: nothingness, God, reality, awareness, loving awareness. But all those names really don't mean much until you come to the realization yourself. So these practices are for increasing your awareness around that realization so you can have the direct experience yourself instead of just something you've read in a book or heard online. So a nuance with this list is that I'm going to be going from 10 to 1 in terms of power, effectiveness, and efficiency in increasing your baseline level of consciousness permanently. And although I'm going from 10 to 1, this is a very powerful list, and all of these practices alone can be very powerful in your awakening process. And just a reminder, when I was starting my spiritual journey, I would have killed for a list like this. So please don't take it lightly and really consider all of these as legit practices for awakening. Enjoy. All right, at number 10, we've got community. And this includes forums, schools, friends, dating, communes, plant medicine groups, ecstatic dance, tantra events, yoga festivals, and anywhere there are people on the path who are consciously doing spiritual practices and working on awakening. I notice a lot of people on this path, myself included, try to go lone wolf. They try to kind of do it their own way. And while lone wolf is powerful, it's actually less effective long term. And we don't need to split spirituality from socialization. Basically, the spiritual path is long and treacherous, and it can be scary at times. So having people who you know around you who are also on the path can be very powerful and stabilizing in your journey. Other people on the path can also serve as inspiration for your journey. Another positive of having community around you that's also on the spiritual path is that they can point out perspectives, insights, and teachings that you might not have found on your own. Not only can they support you in growing your spiritual knowledge, but they can also help you point out blind spots in yourself that you might be missing. Another positive of being around spiritual people is you can have discussions around spirituality, which actually allow you to become more confident in speaking about spiritual topics and test your own knowledge in a way. Another cool thing about having spiritual friends around you is that they can keep you kind of accountable for embodying the values of higher consciousness. So you'll have like an outside perspective of your own that can tell you, hey man, that was kind of out of integrity here, or you lied about this. If you have good friends that are on this journey with you of growth, they can kind of call you out on things that you normally wouldn't see. And this is very vital in your growth and evolution. And a quick metaphor for having a community around you is think of it like the crabs in the bucket metaphor, where, if you're around negative people, it's like you're a crab trying to leave the bucket and they're pulling you back in as you try to grow and try to succeed and get better. These crabs are pulling you back in. And you can think of having a spiritual, supportive, nourishing community around you as crabs that are pushing you up, and they're trying to help you grow and get to your highest self and increase your consciousness. So you're all working together to kind of escape the bucket. All right, so at number 9, we've got fasting. And fasting is an extremely powerful and well-known tool for increasing consciousness, which has been around for thousands of years. What's cool about fasting is you actually trigger your survival mechanisms. So your body kind of goes into a hyper-focused hunt mode where, you would normally in the wild be searching for food. So what this does is it increases your sensitivity, it increases your focus, And you can actually channel that into consciousness work. You can channel that into your meditations and yoga. And this will make for a much more powerful and much more focused practice. And this might sound crazy, but there's actually really a spiritual component to it where it's almost like you're showing the universe, like, look, I'm depriving myself of food because I'm this dedicated to the path. I'm this devoted to awakening and love and God. And there's almost like an intensity with that kind of pays dividends, and it gifts you for kind of coming with that dedication and that fire. And just a key point on fasting is you definitely want to stop eating with this intention of I'm fasting solely for the purpose of increasing my consciousness and awakening. I'm not fasting to lose weight. I'm not fasting to feel better or to, clean my digestive tract, detox. All of this is good, and these benefits will come with fasting. But you really want to be clear that the intention that you're doing this with is for awakening work and to increase your consciousness, and make sure your mind really knows that that's why you're doing this. Another tip is to start small and slow. Don't go into like a 7-day dry fast. Like if you're new to this, just do maybe a juice fast for 3 days, maybe a coconut fast for 3 days, 24 hours dry fast, and then slowly build your ability to fast and go for longer periods where you can go deeper and deeper. Another tip here is fasting is like a purging. So what's going to happen is as you fast, emotions will come up, all kinds of things will come up from the subconscious that want to be digested and emotionally digested. And these things maybe had been, repressed with eating. So what this will do is we'll bring these things up, and you basically just need to sit with them and work through them and process these emotions. And in this way, you're actually kind of healing your emotional body as well. Another nuance here is that you really want to be able to go deeply into your fast and give it your full focus and attention. So if you can, you want to block out maybe 3-4 days, maybe block out a weekend where you really have nothing to do. You have no obligations, you don't have work, anything like that, where you can really focus on the fast and you can kind of give it that time and space for you to just rest and contemplate and meditate and go deep. Because if you try to fast and you're stressed out and you have all these obligations and work and kids and these things, then actually what that's going to do is make things worse. It's going to make you stressed out. You're going to be just pissed off because you're hungry, and it's going to be counterintuitive. It's not going to be effective. When you fast, you really need to be able to have the time to go slow and let the fast absorb you in a way and really go into it with that intention and consciousness. All right, at number 8, we've got shadow work. And shadow work is basically taking the aspects of our psyche that have been repressed and suppressed and bringing them up to the forefront to be processed and dealt with and ultimately let go of. So a metaphor for this is think about like a troll who lives under a bridge in a city. And basically this city has banished the troll. It said, you're ugly, you're bad, you're wrong for existing. And we don't want you here. We don't want to look at you. So you have to go live under the bridge, right? The troll doesn't disappear. It still lives under the bridge, and it might grow a resentment because it's been banished from the city. So what it does is it starts kind of causing problems, maybe messing with the sewage system, or littering in the river, or maybe even hurting people who come down the bridge, right? And this is a great metaphor for the shadow, because the shadow is elements of our human self that we've kind of like been told are bad or that we need to hide. And what happens is we push them into the back of our mind, we suppress them, we don't look at them, and they still exist there. They're still there. And so what happens is they form a shadow, and they come out in kind of tricky ways. Like we might project it onto other people. We might say, oh, they're bad because they're homosexual, when really there's like a homosexual shadow there. There's like a tendency there. Or we might say, oh, they're bad because they watch so much TV, and then but we have a shadow that also wants to be lazy, but we've suppressed it and called it bad. So when we see people that kind of have that shadow that we've suppressed, we really overemphasize it. We become very emotionally reactive to that person. So what we want to do with shadow work is through journaling and things like this, we can bring those parts to the front, allow them to show up, and kind of work through them and kind of befriend them and reintegrate them into our psyche instead of letting them lurk in the background and cause all this mayhem and trouble. And one good practice for this is to 3 times a day, usually in the morning, just journal 3 things that are bothering you, or people or situations, and try to see the shadow in these things. Like what's the aspect of this thing that you might be suppressing or shaming or afraid of? and then kind of like allow those emotions to come through and just process them and sit through them and sit with that part of you that's feeling that way. And in terms of awakening work, what shadow work does is it's really just moving the blocks that are getting in the way of you developing into higher levels of consciousness and reaching higher states of consciousness. You can think of these shadow elements as like clogs in a pipe drain that are like they're just kind of keeping you down, and they're not allowing you to fully expand your consciousness and grow because you kind of got these hooks and these hangups that are in the shadow. So shadow work is absolutely vital for awakening work. It's kind of like taking this nasty medicine that you don't want to take, because you have to look at these parts of yourself that are like, pity, spiteful, jealous, hurt. But you really want to get those up and process them so you can feel better as a person, but also so you can kind of have more energy and time and focus for awakening work. All right, coming in at number 7, we've got tantric sex. And tantric sex is a very powerful and enjoyable way to kind of increase your consciousness, move more into those awakened states, and really just enjoy that sexual energy, that healing energy, that divine energy. And tantric sex has been used for thousands of years by practitioners to increase consciousness and become closer to the divine. The reason I like tantric sex, and most people do, is because it's enjoyable and fun. It's not like meditation or multiple hours of yoga where it can be kind of strenuous and difficult. Most of the time, the body is pretty happy to be doing sexual yoga. So this one is not only increasing your consciousness, but it also can be very enjoyable and healing at the same time. I personally think that tantric sex is one of the most natural ways to increase your consciousness. You're doing it through the body. You're not taking any substances. You don't have to sit around for hours. It comes on pretty quick. So it's a very potent and natural way to increase your consciousness, especially when you direct that energy towards, love, God, higher, universal, unconditional love, holding your partner as a part of you. So there's 3 pillars that I want to mention for tantric sex. And one is to really hold that intention of love. So you're doing this to express and enjoy the unconditional love that you naturally are at your baseline state as an existential being. So you can use this lovemaking to really kind of remind yourself of who you are beyond the ego and beyond the stories. Another pillar is that while you're having tantric sex, you can really kind of shift your perspective to see your partner as an embodiment of God, as a extension of love, an extension of awareness, and ultimately you in another form. And while you're doing this tantric sex, this lovemaking, it can really kind of release those barriers of separation, kind of get you out of your head and really perceive and see the world as all you, as all the extension of one. The third pillar here is to really practice like using the sexual energy as a healing force, a divine purifying force that can run through the body. And you're kind of soaking it in like a sponge. Rather than acting on it, usually we act on it, like we feel that, sexual impulse and we want to, get it out and just like have sex and, come to an orgasm. But tantric sex is really about, making it a yoga, making it a practice, and allowing that energy to run through the body and kind of heal and nourish the body. And instead of kind of acting on it, letting it act on you and letting it run through your system and kind of clear you out and open your heart and ultimately help you to awaken. Let the sex be a reactivation of your true nature and allow your body to somatize this energy. Allow it to be an embodied energy where you're not just contemplating God on a mind level, or you're meditating on a mind level, I'm awareness. You're really feeling that love. You're really feeling that unconditional, universal love that you are. Your body's feeling it. You're feeling healed and nourished, and you're just allowing that to amplify more and more. Another tip here is to really treat sex like any other discipline or any other yoga. Treat tantric sex as a discipline. Like really come in there with that strong mind, that mindset to use this energy to connect and grow and expand in love, and really not getting lost in the energy and the pleasure. And it's okay to feel those things, but you really want to keep your eye on the ball throughout the practice, just like you would with meditation or yoga or reading or anything else. And just a last tidbit for men, semen retention is a very powerful practice to keep you energized and to keep you feeling vital. If you don't know much about semen retention, there's tons of resources out there. I'll make a video about it soon, but I suggest you kind of look it up and check it out because it's a very powerful practice. All right, and at number 6, we've got yoga. And I'm not talking about yoga in the Western sense that you usually see in the studios and what we kind of see today as yoga. I'm talking about real traditional Indian yoga, like straight from India. Basically, this yoga has been distilled into a science solely for the purpose of awakening. And what you want to do is you want to find these teachers and these teachings that will use things like Hatha yoga, Kundalini yoga, Kriya yoga, and Tantric yoga to kind of more in the body help you to awaken. So you're really removing energetic blocks in the body, you're working on the chakra system, the energetic system, and similar to the tantric sex, you're having more of an emotional, psychic feeling of embodied consciousness. You got to kind of think of it as like a science, like they've kind of got yoga down to a science and a formula to help people to awaken to their true nature. Another benefit of yoga is that yoga really helps to calm the mind, and when you have a calm mind, you can kind of have more focus and energy for contemplating things like what is God, who am I, and you'll be able to better kind of focus on these questions, these contemplative awakening questions. And until you do it, you don't really know how powerful it is. You've got to give it at least 2-3 years of daily practice to really kind of start to see the power and the effectiveness of yoga and what it's doing to your consciousness and your energetic body. And the last tip on yoga is that you really want to find a proper school and a proper teaching and training where you can do it. Maybe you find a yoga studio around you that does hatha, yoga, or they have modules and classes, or something online where you can really get the deep knowledge of yoga and these practices, because this will be vital in your effectiveness in doing the yoga and the effectiveness that it has on your consciousness. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the first 5 points on this list. Just a nuance here is that this list, it really matters like what works for you, right? So this might be my top 10. Maybe yours is different, but it's definitely important to try these things out and see what fits for you because everybody's different. Some people might find yoga more powerful. Some people might find fasting more powerful. It really depends on you and your consciousness. So you can definitely tailor and customize your own list, but I definitely recommend these things as practices to at least try out and maybe try out for a couple months or something to see if it works for you. And lastly, you want to use these practices for awakening. There's a lot of these practices where you can get lost in ego, you can create an identity out of it, being a tantric person, being a yogi, doing the best positions, and all of these are basically ego games, and a lot of people get lost in them. But if you really want to awaken, you have to use these practices as tools, not getting lost in them, but using them as tools for your consciousness. And always keep your eye on the ball. Who am I? What is reality? What is consciousness? And focusing on awakening. This will prove the most efficient use of these tools. I hope you guys got a lot out of this. Much love. Talk to you soon.